Welcome to another episode of The Walking Trophy. Now, if you guys are watching this on video, you can see my hair's all dolled up. We got her done today because in just 48 hours, less than that actually, we are heading off to keynote speak at Global Icon Live, which is a talk show experience going down in Florida. So I am flying across the country, getting my butt over to the East Coast, and I am ready to not only keynote speak on the stage in front of the other women that are globally iconic, if you will, the other women that are here to build a massive mission, build a massive brand, build a massive business, and scale to levels that most people don't think is to levels that most people don't think is sane, which is, mind you, a topic I want you to keep in mind as we go through the rest of this episode. But I'm also going to be doing body base scaling world tour stop number 1 on this trip. And I am so goddamn excited. Like, this is the start of what's about to be a legacy. And I can so confidently say that. And if you've been there, you understand what I'm saying. A legacy, typically you leave it behind, right? A legacy is something that you leave behind you. But I can look at this and go, oh, I'm actively creating my legacy. I'm actively creating my body of work, what I want to be known for, what I am known for, and the change that it is going to radically make in the women who get to participate in its lives. Stop number 1 is happening in 72 hours is when the event is, and that's when I'll be leading the session. And excited is truly an understatement. So we got our hair all dolled up. And remember, like 60 seconds ago, when I told you that this is a room full of women that are scaling their businesses to levels that most people are going to find unrealistic. That is exactly what we are going to talk about today. Very, very topical that the subject came forward. Obviously on theme with Global Icon Live. If you want to be an icon, you have to be the exception, not the rule. And this conversation that I'm bringing forward today was inspired by who else? Who else other than Daddy Joe himself, Dr. Joe Dispenza?
Welcome to The Walking Trophy. The Walking Trophy is a podcast for high-level entrepreneurs and performers who know they were built for more. On this podcast, we explore how movement, fitness, and embodied discipline sharpen your leadership, regulate your nervous system, and expand your capacity to create, serve, and lead at the highest level. Through conversations on performance, energetics, and purpose-driven success, this show reframes the body as your greatest asset for sustainable power, abundance, and impact. Welcome to The Walking Trophy.
I was listening to an episode of The School of Greatness with Lewis Howes, where he interviewed Dr. Joe. And for those of you that have never listened to The School of Greatness times Dr. Joe Dispenza, they're always the best episodes. I think Joe is really comfortable with Lewis because he opens up on that podcast, I find, a lot more than other podcasts that he is a guest on. I think he feels really safe in Lewis's space, or Lewis just asks the right questions. I don't even know. But I was listening to that on my car ride home today from a her appointment, and I felt so inspired because there was one line that really stood out to me. And like, mind you, Dr. Joe went from meditation expert to like high performance coach 101 during this episode, which was 100% based upon questions that Lewis was asking. So credit to Lewis for asking the right questions. But in the midst of Dr. Joe answering this phenomenal question about not only how to take the right actions to create your goal, but also mentally and spiritually, if you will, how to get yourself in a position of success. He was answering that question for Lewis, and he dropped this one-liner in the middle of that episode that paused me. I had to press pause on my phone. I had to Siri and say, hey, start a new note because I need to remember this line. And he said, and you know what? Let me pull it up and quote it. He said, what is the point at which everybody else stops? Because that's how I know that I'm going to keep going. And that's a bit of a paraphrase. But essentially, first of all, let that one sink in. He said, what is the point at which everybody else stops? Because that's how I know that that's when I'm going to go. That's how I know that that's when I'm going to double down my efforts. A mic drop, please? Dr. Joe, you've changed our lives for years, but damn, that was a freaking banger of a line. Because here's the thing, what he is describing when it comes to achieving extraordinary results is the attitude and the energy that you need to have in order to be the extraordinary person that fulfills these extraordinary results. And not everybody's going to do it. Not everybody has the attitude, not everybody has the mindset, not everybody has the willpower, the discipline, whatever it is. Not everybody possesses, at least right now in time, the traits to be able to be the person that goes beyond the point that everybody else stops. Because when you go beyond the point, when everybody else, the 99% have turned away, but you continue, you're now walking in uncharted territory. You're now walking a path that doesn't have a clear blueprint. In the words of Robert Frost, you're taking the path less traveled or the road less traveled. And that is terrifying because you are walking straight into the unknown, which is kind of Dr. Joe's entire thing. But when you walk straight into the unknown, you don't have outside examples to lean on to show you the way. You don't have the testimonial of somebody else that leaves a blueprint behind that you can follow. When you choose to go where everybody else stops, you have to have such trust and faith and certainty in your ability to execute because you are not heeding any of the warning signs. You've said, wow, everybody else decided that this point right here, draw the line in the sand, everybody else turns around right here. I'm going to walk over that line and I'm going to keep pursuing. So you have to not only be able to overcome the question of, well, why did everybody else stop? What do they know that I don't? And you have to replace that with, I know everybody else stopped because they don't have the confidence, the faith, and the certainty in themselves that they could go any further, but I do. So you have to have a resounding trust in yourself, a resounding faith in yourself. You have to know beyond a shadow of a doubt that it is worth continuing a journey that is arguably going to be very challenging and very turbulent and have a lot of twists and turns that you can't anticipate because it's the unknown. You have to trust yourself fully in your ability to navigate that situation and be at peace with the decision that even at the end of this journey, you might not still even get what you want, but the pursuit of trying was worth it. That is an important point. That is a very important point. Because when you think about a winner and the journey a winner goes on, it's not always about getting the gold medal. It's not always about taking home the trophy, getting the scholarship, being the one that earns the award. It is about winning is about the journey of who you become. It is about the identity that is built in the process. And that's what real winning is. Because at the end of the day, an accolade is an accolade. A finish line is a finish line. And that high will last for a couple minutes, a couple hours, maybe a couple days if you're lucky. But at some point, the accolade, the high of winning it wears off, and you're just left with yourself and wherever you want to direct your energy next. And so a true winner, somebody that's really committed to their craft, committed to the game, committed to the mission, is they are not driven by the external reward, even though that's something that they might really want and they're hungry for it and they will strive for it. They will not determine their success as the be all end all by whether they win first or whether they win the prize or not. They're going to determine the success based upon who they become in the process of trying. And so all of that to say that when you choose to go where 99% of people won't go, what you've chosen to do is radically rely on who you are, radically trust who you are. And if you don't already, even though you do to a certain extent to continue going, you are going to build the trust in yourself on the way to be able to continue this journey. And there's so much to be said for that. That's such an important point right there. To break the mold and trust yourself more than everybody else, or to have the desire to build that along the way is an exceptional trait. It's an exceptional characteristic, and it's one of the characteristics that you will find in the top 1%, in the highest performers. Because here's the thing, nobody ever got to absurd levels of success by following the path that was laid out in front of them or by doing exactly as everybody else has done. Because here's the thing, in order to create new outcomes, you must blaze new trails. And you can only blaze new trails if you're not letting fear keep you from moving, but you're moving either in spite of it or in enough trust in yourself that the fear doesn't make your decisions. You make your decisions. And this is what I really need you to focus on, is that when everybody else stops is probably the point of most common resistance, if you will. If you think about it as a graph, that is the point on the graph in which the line had been steadily moving upward, and then there's just a drop off. There's just a plateau because nobody can get beyond that point. It takes a special person with a special mindset, with special training to be able to get beyond that plateau and bring that curve back up. Where everybody else stops means that the journey has been relatively easy up until then. The journey hasn't pushed the edges enough for most people to have fallen off. But once a journey reaches the point where most people are falling off, it means that there is a level of resistance that the average person either doesn't know how to overcome or doesn't even desire to overcome. Like they'd rather live in the comfort or in the easiness that doesn't require overcoming that challenge or crossing that bridge. And this is the most important point to be aware of, because if you really want to be a winner, like if you really want to win in your life, if you really want to create exceptional results, to lead an extraordinary life, to bring your mission beyond what most would expect and into an uncharted territory, into a level of success, of scale, of impact, of influence that you're the only one that really believed in it, because everybody else saw that as unrealistic because most people would quit at some point. If you really hold the vision that that is the level of impact you desire to create, then finding this point of most resistance, where most people fail, where most people stop, where most people end their journey, that is the single most important point to become aware of on your journey, because that is the point at which you say, oh, I've reached it. I feel resistance. I feel fear. I feel stress. I feel anxiety. I feel overwhelmed. Fantastic. This is the best place I could be because I know I'm about to differentiate myself from everybody else. I'm about to pass the threshold at which my success becomes nearly inevitable. Because if I can get past this point, then I can get past anything. Because once you achieve one extraordinary result that most people aren't willing to do, the other extraordinary results become much easier. Because now you've built the trust and the proof in yourself that you are the individual that is capable of breaking the mold, of breaking through the glass ceiling, and of being the one who is able to achieve at that higher level. You don't use other people's lives, other people's blueprints, other people's stories as your success mold. You are not trying to fit into a mold. You have blazed your own trail. You have created your own path. Now you don't need permission from a single other soul in the world to tell you what you can and you can't do, because that faith is in you. You're not looking for validation or permission from those around you, from the world around you. You've given yourself that permission. You've proven to yourself that even when everyone else says that's crazy, you know you're the one that can make it happen. And now nobody knows the wiser. Nobody can tell you anything that is going to stop you, because once your heart and once your determination has proven itself to be able to overcome what most people can't, that's your identity. That is your story. That becomes the story of who you are. That becomes your belief system about yourself. And that becomes the operating system from which you navigate. That becomes your standard of living. What most people see as a point at which they cannot pass is the point at which you double down and you differentiate yourself from everybody. And the reason that they call it extraordinary impact, results, success, is because it's extraordinary. Ordinary is what everybody's doing. Extraordinary means you got beyond that point, the point of most resistance. Now you understand the value of being able to be the one that overcomes the point of most resistance. You understand the value that stands in the moment where most people quit and you continue to pursue forward. And you might understand this conceptually, you might understand it logistically, but then the natural question that would follow, especially for someone that has incredibly ambitious goals and will be the first of their kind to create that level of result, whether it's within their life, within their circles, or within society as a whole. We got some amazing trailblazers out here doing amazing work. The next question becomes, okay, I understand that I have to push beyond that point, but how do I do that? How do I build the identity of the woman that can do that? Because I hear you. You're telling me that I need to keep going when everybody else stops. You're telling me that I need to overcome the resistance where everybody else succumbs to the resistance. And yes, that is in theory easier said than done. But this also happens to be the exact logic behind training your body to hold the capacity of where you are going as opposed to where you are. Because when Dr. Joe said, find the point that everybody else stops, and that's when I know how to go, there's an implication that there's going to be challenges that you're going to have to face on a new level and obstacles and roadblocks. And mentally, you want to be ready to hold that, but physically, you want to be ready to move through it. Physically, you need to train the capacity in your system to be able to move through it. And this is the importance of training your body with your business, of not just writing down what you want in a journal, but training it into your body, of not just closing your eyes and visualizing it in meditation, but then taking the action in everyday life that aligns on a body level to being the woman that can hold this level of success, this level of growth, this level of evolution. And that's the beauty of body-based scaling, because what we're doing during these training sessions is it's not just a sweat session. Sweat sessions. This is an opportunity for you to somatically call in and code your body on a cellular level to perform at the level of the woman you're calling in. This isn't you right now that comes into these body-based scaling sessions. We call in the future version of you. We call in the version of you that's already performing at that level, and we train our bodies as her. We train our bodies as the person that has what it is that we are calling in. We train our bodies as the person that has gone beyond the point where everybody else has stopped, and we go further. So somatically, on an identity level during these sessions, you are training as future you, and you are physically in a high vibrational, high energy, highly activated state, acting as that version of you, which is an incredibly anchoring moment to really feel, not just visualize, but to feel and to act as what it's like to be that version of you already. Now, the other half of this, that's the identity piece. The other half of this is the way that it trains your nervous system to be familiar, pushing beyond the point that everybody else stops. Okay? Because you know that typically, like if you were in an exercise class and the instructor has you do a 3-minute plank, most people are going to drop to their knees. They're going to throw their hips in the air. They're going to start wiggling around, I don't know, 45 seconds to a minute. But when you train yourself through these very intentional workouts, these capacity workouts, these edge workouts, these momentum workouts, these power speed workouts, you're teaching yourself how to train and physically endure beyond the point at which everybody else would typically stop. So everybody else is doing a 60-second plank in their workout. You're doing a 2-minute plank. Everybody else is doing 30 seconds battle ropes. You're doing 45 seconds. Everybody else is doing 10 minutes of light jogging on the treadmill. You're doing fucking hill sprints. Everybody else is doing the same dumbbell for their goblet squats that they've been doing for the past 3 years, and you're throwing weight on the bar. You're increasing it every week. You are challenging yourself to a new level every time you step in the gym. And you are training and affirming into your system, everybody else is stopping, but I continue. I'm a competitor. I want to win this. I want to be the top performer. I want to come out as the top dog in this competition. So when you're in that workout and you're pushing yourself to the point where you're like, damn, there's a lot of resistance. I'm exhausted. I'm physically beat. I know that everybody else who gets to this point probably quits the workout. They do less reps. They do less sets. They call it a day. But me, I follow through to the end every single time. I'm a finisher. I cross the finish line and I cross that thing first. I am the one that wins the competition. I am the one that overcomes this challenge. There is no challenge too great for me because I told myself I was going to do it. So goddamn it, I'm going to do it. While 99% of people are going to act one way, I'm going to act the other way because I'm going to follow through on what I told myself I was going to do. Most people aren't going to stick to that gym routine for 3 months at a time, but me, I'm in this for life. I might skip a workout every now and then because life pops up, but I'm not the one who skips the workouts. Most people, mind you, I've been a trainer for 10 years. Most people skip the workouts. It is the exception, not the rule, to show up every single day to the gym and to show up every single time you have a workout written on your schedule. So every time that you become the woman that shows up for the workout, that doesn't skip the gym, that does every rep, that does every set, that pushes her weight, that does the extra reps, you are integrating on a nervous system level that there is no challenge that is too great for you. There is no factor that is too intimidating. There is no level you will not push to, because when you decide you're going to do it, you do it. You follow through on yourself. So where most people will stop, you will continue. That is the value of these sessions. That is the value of training your body like an athlete as an entrepreneur, of taking your training as moments to train up the CEO version of yourself and not just a little side quest to your day and then you go to the office later. You are very much a CEO when you walk into the gym. And if you know how to leverage it, you can really build the unfucking stoppable identity of the woman who wins every single time. So yes, body-based scaling is going to integrate and train and code the identity of the version of you that already has achieved that exceptional, that extraordinary goal. Not only are you somatically bringing that into your reality, but you're also training your nervous system to be the one that operates and continues pushing when everybody else stops. To be the exceptionally strong, the exceptionally powerful CEO. Because while most people will stop at the journaling, they'll stop at the visualizations, you know that all of this combined, the meditations, the journaling, the visualization, yes, and the physical training is the ultimate success code to being the top 1%, to going beyond the point at which most people stop, to succeeding at a level that creates extraordinary, exceptional results. Dr. Joe said it himself. Find the point at which everybody else stops, and that's when you double down and go further. Humans are so funny because when we aren't aware of patterns, everybody really tends to follow very similar patterns of behavior. But when you can train yourself to be the exception and to be the differentiator and to separate yourself from the crowd and to claim those characteristics proudly because, hi, you're a freaking high achiever, you're a CEO, you're already doing what most people won't. But when you can even 10x that identity, what you're able to achieve as a result is it's it's extraordinary. I don't even have the words for it because you're not just out here doing this that you can like make a quick buck and then go vacation on the beach for the next 40 years. You're doing this because you have a purpose, you have a mission that is so deep and meaningful to you that you are willing to show up every single day in the biggest possible way to change the lives of everybody who's going to be touched by your mission. The heart-led, soul-led entrepreneur is so unfucking stoppable. And so when you can train your body to be that level of unstoppable, to be that level of aligned with your purpose, to be that calibrated to the version of you that wins, and winning just means spreading your fucking mission, is an unstoppable combination. There is nothing as powerful as a woman that knows and trusts herself to push beyond the point at which everybody else stops.